Welcome, everyone. My name is Amir Ness, and I am your host for today's Global Coin Report show. And I have with us Richard Ells, almost as famous as Satoshi himself, joining us from Electroneum. Before we start the show, just as a disclosure, this is not investment advice. We're not investment advisors. Do your own due diligence and go from there. But thank you very much, Richard, for being on the show. And
thank you for inviting me.
No problem. You are almost as famous as Satoshi. You know that, right?
Well, I'm certainly more tangible than Satoshi. I know this when my wife beats me with a stick.
Yeah, but you're almost as hard to track down. I'll say that too. So let's start the show. I know that there's a bunch of questions, but before we get into some of the more current questions, tell us a little bit about why you started Electroneum, what was your idea behind it, and that's the first to start with that.
Well, Electroneum is the result of, I've been in digital for years and years and years, and I was playing around with crypto for quite a while. It's not the easiest thing in the world to get into. I was always doing it on Linux. I know there's more and more Windows wallets, but when I was into this, basically, if you weren't Linux, you really weren't into crypto. It was not at all accessible for the masses. At the same time, I had some guys that I was working with in my other businesses that were app developers, and I thought, what this really, really needs is crypto on an app, so that it's crypto on a smartphone. There were lots of issues with regards to doing what we wanted to do, which I won't bore you with, but ultimately what we've done is we've made the mobile crypto, which has made it much more accessible for the masses. And by allowing these people to have this mining experience where they end up with some coins, we've had this viral growth, which is why we've got a massive community, and that will only get bigger as we start to press on. So it's just all about making it mobile, sorry.
Right, so it's basically also part of your past, and you're just kind of innovating, and this is what you created, basically. Tell us a little bit about what was the ICO like in terms, as much as you can share as far as capital raised, how you're deploying that capital, and just a little bit about the ICO capital structure type of thing.
Sure. Well, we were selling ETN for ETH or for Bitcoin, pretty much following the Ethereum model of running an ICO, which they ran in 2014. We liked the idea of raising capital to do it. We had to raise because I knew that this was going to be fiercely expensive to create the back-end infrastructure that we needed. I financed the business myself at the beginning, which enabled, so we didn't do some people do this sort of a pre-ICO sale to generate the money for the ICO. I funded that myself, so we could go straight into an ICO with advertising revenue. We'd already pre-built a lot of the product and proof of concept anyway, so it made sense to do that. And then how much we were going to raise was a mystery. We got lucky with the timing. Let's be honest, it was a great time in the world of crypto. Everything was booming. So we got very lucky in that respect. We did some things I think that were relatively clever at the time. That sounds a bit like I'm, being a bit rude about, what I mean. I'm not trying to be a big-headed, sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
The other ICOs hadn't done because they hadn't looked at that massive market. Whereas my background is marketing, so I knew that we would be going out to people that hadn't necessarily ever done anything in the crypto space before, and show them, that actually entry into crypto is feasible. So we did some interesting things. Let's not say they're clever. Let's just say they were interesting things, different things. And unfortunately, then that world has become closed off to other ICOs as Facebook has shut down that avenue, which again is a shame for other ICOs. There are some really nice projects. There are some really nice projects out there that would have been really nice to be able to go down that route. So we got very lucky with that, and we ended up raising the equivalent of $40 million US in ETH and Bitcoin. Now, I've just, I'll see if you're still there. I'm hoping that you are. The TV just disappeared. Oh, you're back.
Yeah.
I'm rather hoping that, we know that we're funded for everything that we want to do. So this is the lucky thing. I'm fairly tight anyway. So I will eke money out in a project to make sure that it does absolutely everything. I've been running my own businesses, digital agency, and then later a social media project for more than 20 years. So I know how to get value, and I'm not going out like some of these guys and just spraying money out. We're being very tight and making sure that everything we put in place is good value for money, so that the people that have got involved in this project get the best return. And we're lining everything up. I say the word return, it's not an investment, right? I don't want to get into that, but obviously ETN is something you bought as a product or as a coin. It's not an investment, we're not a security. So just need to cover that.
No problem.
Sorry.
Let me ask you a question, because I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people here listening that are running their own ICOs. And I talk to people, who I do kind of some PR and media for, and I do that for Elevate Group, my own firm. But tell me this, when you were going into your ICO and you were looking at doing media, doing PR, buying articles, doing interviews, what is your thought and what is your advice to people who are in that position in a market like right now, and they're looking at like news sites like ours, let's say Global Coin Report, and we've got over 1 million hits a month, and it's not cheap, obviously. But tell us a little bit about your advice from a digital marketing perspective to people who are looking to raise capital in this space.
Okay. Well, it was an interesting. We had an interesting time, and like I say, it was. We were lucky in a lot of respects, and certainly the fact I've got a lot of experience in Facebook advertising. And Facebook advertising is fantastic, but unfortunately, that's now locked out. So most of my advice would have been go off to Twitter, go off to Facebook. Now, I personally found we had a 5 times better return off Facebook than we did off Twitter. So my entire Twitter budget, I took over into the Facebook budget and just expanded out the audience, which is pretty much what I did with everything. I had banner advertising running. I'd got paid press release running. I'd got all sorts running, and everything. The return on investment was far and above better from Facebook than anything else. So it's a real shame for me to now be able to sit here and say, I've got great advice, but you can't do it. But that's kind of where I'm at. Digital, always for me, everything's got to be digital advertising, and measure it. If you're not measuring it, you're not managing it. Don't do a scattergram and just hope. And even if you do a scattergram and then you think, okay, I'm getting a return off investment, you have to know what's working, and you have to keep trying things. So there was an awful lot of science in our ICO, an awful lot of science. So we had loads of campaigns, and we measured what was happening. So we knew exactly what visitor numbers were coming from which adverts, but more importantly, in terms of the audience, you can do this with nearly every digital advertising platform. You can then create audiences, and you can create groups, and you can create sectors. You can take people out. So what we were doing is anybody that converted through into a user, we'd make sure we're not paying for advertising for them again and again. So that's a really important thing. You don't want to keep spending money. One thing you should be doing, which you can do on any advertising, is make sure that when you drive people to your website, make sure that you are doing some form of remarketing. There are a number of them out there. Obviously, Google have got remarketing, and maybe AdRoll is probably the easiest one to get into and understand. It's a very easy interface. So make sure you've got a remarketing program, because people sometimes come and have a little look, and then you think, oh, do I do something, or do I go away? And you want to make sure you follow them around. It's going to hound them. You're going to annoy a few people, but ultimately you're going to drive more people back. And then, of course, measure that. So you know who's coming back the second time, third time, whatever. And once again, if they sign up and become a user, make sure, because you now know their details, make sure you're not paying for the remarketing. So once again, exclude anybody who hits that point from your remarketing budget. So use science. Make sure you're clever. Every advert that you do, don't just think this is what's going to work. Get 5, 6, 7 people in your team to create things. You might look at 5 of those adverts and think, I hate those, but they liked it. Right now, they're a different person. So they're obviously appealing to themselves in a way that you can't understand, and conversely, your advert might not appeal to them. But if you put lots of different adverts in, science will tell you which ones are the most effective. And sometimes you'd be surprised. Sometimes somebody else's idea that you think, oh, that's really ugly, or it's not appealing, works really well. Google the term clickbait. It's a hideous term, but it's also quite appealing. People like secrets, right? 5 secrets of the 5 magical secrets to success, to wealth, whatever. There are these quite horrible bits of clickbait that are out there, but nonetheless, the science of that stuff is great. So have a look around what it is that attracts people into clicking on advertising, because you've got that instant. You've got to try and attract them. And don't put tons of text on stuff, because advertising has to be like a motorway or a freeway sign. You know, you've got to pick up all the information as it whizzes past, because we're bombarded with advertising. So make sure it's a really bold statement that attracts attention. Sorry, that was a really long answer.
No, I actually can appreciate that answer very much. I'm sure people will as well. Great. And tell us a little bit about, okay, so what have you guys accomplished so far? What are some of the milestones that you can say, look what we've done?
Okay. Well, the app has grown and grown. We've got more than 1 million active users on the app, which is good. We've got, it's been quite an exciting journey through the app. So our app allows you to mine. We are struggling a little bit with people who keep trying to create accounts on our system. We've got loads of bots hitting us. Bots are a problem because they're after the mobile mining. So we get hit, a load of our web traffic is deflected bot traffic. So that's one of the things that we are constantly struggling to overcome. It's a challenge that we face every day, but we've got guys on it, which is an exciting thing. So we're constantly fighting somebody. We took HackerOne on at the beginning. We're a custodial wallet system. We are a target of every single malicious hacker in the world, it seems, sees a custodial wallet system like an exchange or like ours and says, well, this is nice. Let's get stuck in, find the weakness, and we'll take all the ETN or the Bitcoin or whatever it is in that system. So we are constantly faced with that. So once again, we've done some quite exciting things there. But this is all back-end stuff that you can't see. Front-end stuff, what have we done? So we created an instant payment system. That's the most important thing of our whole premise, really. Mobile is critical. You've got to have mobile, but if you've got some cryptocurrency on a mobile phone and you can't spend it anywhere, we're not really succeeding in doing what we want to do. We want to make crypto something that's genuinely used, not just held, not just speculated on, but actually used as a day-to-day medium. And we believe we can do it. So having the phone is one thing, but actually we've got a system that you may have seen it on video. If not, YouTube it, you'll find videos now. You can now go off and we've got the WooCommerce app is completely finished. You can go to the WooCommerce plugin directory, install it, and within about 15, 20 minutes, you could have Electroneum being accepted in your WooCommerce store. Or I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a moment. We've got an advertising campaign starting this month to recruit vendors for that as well. So I'll talk about that in a moment. We've got Joomla is out there. OpenPHP, I think, might be finished or is in development. There's a few others. Magento is in development. That's going to be awesome. I can't wait to show you the Magento one, because the Magento one has been integrated. And I won't say anymore because I got told off in the last interview for hinting a bit too much. But the Magento one has been implemented by a mobile operator to enable top up of the phone. So it's really good. So that's coming along. So we've done effectively, we're putting in place all of the things you need to have the infrastructure required to have tens of millions of users and the ability for those users to spend it in a convenient way and to receive it in a convenient way. So we've got a couple more exchanges. We've got some fiat pairings coming on fiat exchanges. Those are, we've got one new exchange and one exchange we're already on. We're going to have fiat pairings very soon. A couple more exchanges we're in conversation with. Quick update for HitBTC. Anyone who goes, when HitBTC? I've heard this for a year. Wish I'd never mentioned HitBTC. But if you go to the System Health at the bottom of HitBTC, go to the page, scroll to the bottom, System Health, click in there, you will see that we are listed in System Health. We're still not live, but the tech team are working with our tech team to get integrated. So we're creeping forwards ever closer. We're talking to HitBTC's tech team on a regular, every day or every couple of days now. So I'm still confident we'll get it over the line. We are listed there now. It's just not ready to trade.
Okay.
So
good.
yeah, that's lots of things I guess we've been doing.
Tell me, you had mentioned that you're getting, excuse me, I'll just get that up. You mentioned that you're getting a lot of businesses that are going to be able to use you through WooCommerce and things like that. Do you see the ETN volatility being so kind of a risk for a business to accept? Like, you know, they could accept today and ETN price could drop 15% or go up 15%. And, you know, a day-to-day business might not want that volatility. How do you address that concern?
Two things. The first thing, which is really important, is that the target audience that we've identified and are working with are the mobile virtual network operators and the mobile network operators. So the great thing about what they're selling, which is airtime and data, is that the margins on their additional airtime and data are off the chart massive. In a conventional business, you'd be lucky if you're earning 30%, whereas it's virtually all profit in terms of additional data, additional airtime. So our first route to market, it's important that we work with these guys, because even if you get massive fluctuations, if you have 50% fluctuations in a day, they're still making margin by having accepted ETN. It also gives them the ability to accept ETN and perhaps do an offer. So the reason that they want to take ETN, by the way, is because if they take ETN instead of cash, they don't have the cash transfer issues. So they don't take cash directly. You don't walk into one of these guys and hand them the money. It gets handed to an agent, who probably hands it to another agent who recruited him, who probably hands it to a supervisor who goes and banks it. So there's a whole row of people that take some commission for this. And a lot of the operators are paying between 15 and 30% cash handling. So if you take ETN, you've got an immediate benefit that you're not having to have that cash handling fee. And then ultimately, this is why we're working with exchanges to create the fiat bridge. So if you have a fiat bridge in an exchange, then you can very, very quickly, somebody deciding not to come in. You can very, very quickly jump from ETN into fiat if you choose to do so. Although it must be said that most of the people that we're dealing with at the moment are seeing ETN as something that they want to actually reintroduce back into an ecosystem. This is a bit of a long story, but I'll just say very quickly that if a mobile operator accepts ETN, all a mobile network operator wants to do is grow their business. This is what they understand. They're not trying to speculate on cryptocurrency. They're not trying to get into something they don't understand. But when you explain to them that you can use cryptocurrency as a vehicle to grow their network, which is all they care about, then they are very interested. And we've built an entire ecosystem model, which is not in the public domain, but they're very excited by the fact that we can re-incentivize. So the money that comes in ETN, they see as an advertising budget in ETN, which they can reuse to incentivize more users coming on through the Electroneum model, which they can then use to get into their own network and tell them what they want to make money on airtime and data. So they're seeing it as a growth model, which is exciting because it means that the money turns into an ecosystem rather than it just being straight to cash, cash into an exchange and back,
Right, because that's the thing from your perspective you wouldn't want. I mean, if they're buying it and then the people who are receiving it are selling it, it doesn't really do much for you in terms of the ecosystem.
To encourage this, and the same thing goes for if you get the users to hold it and all they can do is buy mobile data, then again, it's all right, but it's not that exciting. You have to do more. And this is why we've got so many things going on to make sure that more actually happens. So obviously you've got the instant payment system. So we've got an API that makes it really easy to integrate ETN. You've worked with blockchain. I've worked with blockchain. I've done projects where we've tried to integrate Bitcoin in the earlier days and trying to work directly with the command line wallets, and certainly the early days of Bitcoin was really, really hard. Even now, if you want to work with Bitcoin, you've got to make sure you understand what the confirmation, and with our blockchain and with most of the others, you've got to understand what confirmations are. You've got to understand why confirmations exist in a decentralized model. You've got to understand how much risk you want to take with those confirmations. Do I want to let it confirm on the first block or the 10th block? When is it that I'm going to consider that this money is secure or safe? There's lots of things to think about, and most of the integrators in the world, most of the developers in the world still don't really understand crypto. So if you hand them a blockchain project and say, right, say for instance WooCommerce, hey, integrate blockchain into WooCommerce. We actually had a go at this right back at the beginning of the project. People were really asking us, can we get this integrated into an e-commerce system? And we built a WooCommerce system around our blockchain model, and it was awful. Really, it was so hard to get it to work and work stably, and we had lots of people looking at it, and actually it was really quite difficult. And so now what we've done is we've said, right, let's wait till we've delivered what we really want to do, which is now we've got an API that's so easy to use It's as easy to use as Stripe. It's as easy to use as PayPal. And this is what web designers all over the world know. They understand it. It's really easy for them. It's an API. Here's an API key. Accept it. And that's what we've given to them. So we believe we'll develop a really big ecosystem of people that accept ETN as well, because it's easy to do.
Good. I know that's one of the major functions of a currency is to make it fungible, and that's what you guys are working on. So that's a big deal, and good luck to you on that.
Yeah,
I mean, I know you said you got 1 million users right now, right? Okay, so
yeah, we've got about 2.4 million registered users, but they're not people that are necessarily doing anything. We've got about 10% of our people can be bothered to mine. So mining at the moment is probably only producing $1.50 a month or something for people. We've got another piece of software coming that's going to make that much more fair. At the moment, you have to be connected to the internet all the time to get that miner to work and to stay working. And we hoped to have it out by now, but there's been a few challenges that we've been overcoming. But we are developing this thing called a cloud mining, where we're allowing people to switch it on, and then it effectively will mine in the background. It will give you some ETN in the background, so you'll be earning without having to be connected to the internet. It's going to be a really important thing for us, because it means that many more of our users will stay as active users, because they can be bothered to keep it running effectively. And once they've got some ETN, you're not going to switch that app off. You're not going to delete the app. You're going to think, you know what, I've got some, don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but I'm going to keep it. And then as we introduce more and more vendors, suddenly they'll be, oh, I can spend it in here on something, or I can spend it online on something. Suddenly you're giving them a reason to start getting involved in the project. So lots of stuff going on.
And I take it that because you're from a digital background, in terms of point of sale, you're going to stay focused on the digital point of sale and not, any kind of brick and mortar point of sale?
No, we created an API for EPOS systems. So our e-commerce API works same as everybody else's pretty much. You wait for a webhook, and so our server calls your server and says yes, the instant payment has taken place, and that's pretty much the standard out of the box thing that everybody does. But what we've done is we've created an EPOS system. Now, more often than not, the EPOS till has got access to the internet, but the internet doesn't have access to the till for obvious reasons. There's firewalls and things in the way. So we've created an API that the till software can poll and say, is the instant payment there yet? Is the instant payment there yet? So it puts a QR code up on the screen. You scan it with your phone and click pay. Then our servers know the payment has taken place, and the API call comes in and says, has the money arrived? Has the money arrived? Every 2 seconds. It only lasts for a minute or so before it times out. If you haven't paid within a minute, the till operator can do it again. Otherwise, as soon as that API call goes, is it there yet? It says yes. So it means we've thought about the firewalls that exist within retail premises. We have worked with different people. You'll see a video on the internet of a great guy who has integrated with one of the biggest EPOS systems in Egypt. It's used by all of the major chains in Egypt. So yeah, we've got an EPOS system as well.
Very good. Okay, good. And what do you see, what would you like to see in terms of users, holders in, let's say, 12 months from now?
Well, 12 months, it's going to be so exciting. I also get told off by the team, because whenever I'm on a video, I always say super exciting. That's how I see every day. It's all super exciting. By 12 months' time, one of the really critical things that's going live at the beginning of next year, we've been developing it, the model is developed, the infrastructure has been scoped, and we are currently coding block at a time to create a scalable model that enables us to do some on-chain, off-chain events. This is going to be really important if we get to the stage that we want to next year. We've got some great partnerships. We've got some really massive ones that are just taking forever to get over the line. Negotiating the first stage is relatively easy. Probably not easy, but relatively easy. But getting through the lawyers and the complexity of actually signing these deals up as contracts is much harder, and that's taking time. But there's loads of them moving forwards. Once we get those through, we've got a massive reach. Certainly in excess of 100 million user reach, possibly quite a lot more by next year. So reaching out.
100 million. So you're looking at going from 1 million users to 100 million users.
my plan for next year is to get us to 20 million users, just to be clear. I want to get us to 20 million users. We've got about 2 million registered users. I would like to get us to 20 million users next year. But there is a possibility to go much more than that. We've got access to 100 million users plus with the deals that we've signed. So what that means is that the network operators can talk to their users. They can SMS them. Some of them can email, but not all of them know their email addresses. But mostly we've got access to a route to SMS these users. We've got a series of messages that we are negotiating with the networks to put in a series of marketing messages to encourage them into the ETN ecosystem. So
just as a comparison, not to interrupt you, because I think I'm going to get onto a very good point that a lot of people would want to know.
Yeah.
Just as a comparison, can you tell us what? Because before the show started, I asked you who would you see as what are the types of competitors out there? Dash was one of them. Do you know what Dash's user base is? Do you have any idea what that number is?
No, I mean Dash is a privacy coin. You can't see how many wallets there are on Dash. I mean, I've always said I'm a big fan of Dash, and a few people have tried to get me to sort of stomp competition, and I don't believe that the crypto space needs to do that at all. We're all in this space to try and encourage user growth on cryptocurrency in general. People getting access to ETN means that they'll be able to get access to exchanges or atomic swaps that will give them the ability to get into other cryptocurrencies, even if they're not fully KYC'd. They will be able to jump into other cryptocurrency, which is nice. So we're giving access to the whole cryptocurrency market. I'm certainly not going to say anything bad about Dash. I like the Dash project. I like what the guys are doing. So Dash is doing well. They're big in Venezuela. They've done really well over there. We've taken the decision to not try and go up against. No point picking a country where somebody else is really hitting hard and go head to head with them. So we're looking at a few other regions. I won't say what they are yet, but we're working with exchanges in those regions. We're working at fiat transfer in those regions, and we are looking at people on the ground in different regions, because there's no point us trying to go head to head with Dash. There are other people. There's Dent, which is a token, mobile top-up based token, which is called Dent. Don't know too much about them, but I met them at the MWC event in Barcelona last year. Again, the guys are in a similar space to us. So good luck to them also. I think there's a whole world to carve up. So whilst all cryptocurrencies maybe have competitors, it's a bit like the burger market, I guess. There's your local town will have the two big guys that everybody's heard of, but there's also going to be a dozen other burger joints. And crypto has yet to be consolidated. You're going to see loads and loads of good projects, and somebody will come along at some point and start scooping up the better ones in the future. Yeah. It's going to be years in the future, but it'll happen eventually.
And right now your market cap is at 200 million?
Around that. I mean, obviously fluctuates every day. There's been a bit of FUD in the market today, which always affects the price. People do like to FUD Electroneum. I mean, it's flattering. All notice and interest is flattery, I guess. So when we see people going out there with a really obvious remit to slag us off, we just think, okay, well, it's part of parcel of what it is. What we're doing is irritating to somebody. I'm not too sure who, but it doesn't matter to us. The people come on and see the project for what it is. There's been some great press lately over what we're doing. What we're doing is unique. KYC, which we haven't covered, people have been saying to me, why are you doing it? It's so annoying. Don't disagree with you. I totally agree with you. KYC is annoying. If you could walk into the bank and open a bank account on trust, it'd be so much better, wouldn't it? but that's not how the world works, unfortunately. And big business are terrified of crypto. I mean, this didn't come from us thinking we want to irritate our users. It's come from the fact that we've had feedback from corporates, proper sized corporates that, are household names that we're talking to at a board level, and their lawyers have gone, how are you going to deal with a crypto? And we've come to this conclusion that if we can get KYC over the line, suddenly it eases a massive, massive barrier. And I think the corporate world will embrace us. And in fact, they already are embracing us because of it.
Well, so, that's it. I mean, that's once you do KYC, you're kind of in the system, and then you'll get the diehard blockchain people, decentralists who want to stay out of the system. But
and you know, we're not the project for those guys in the you know, pure decentralized projects, which again, you know, bear in mind, I've been in crypto for years and years. That's, of course, that's the background I have as well, this pure decentralization. I love the concept of everything. I love the nature of it. You know, this is the space that I inhabit. So I'm definitely not doing this to try and irritate people. But what I am trying to do is do something that genuinely gets crypto into the hands of a lot of people. And these corporates, you might not like corporates, even if you're a decentralized sort of anarchist, you might not like corporates, but you have to admit they are the ones that have got the giant user bases.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
The way into those is through following the rules.
Yeah, and you're it's not like you're advertising yourself as a privacy coin and that's what you want to be. You're, if I understand it correctly, Electroneum is about getting to the people and providing them with a currency that is easy to use, easy to keep, easy to spend. And you need the corporate world. You need to mesh with the corporate world. I think it's actually probably you're probably one of the few people who are doing it the way you're doing it. And that's one of the reasons why I would see a lot of value increasing. I mean, I look at somebody like you and I say, okay, you guys have a 200 million market cap, which is considered very small if you compared it to, like, you know, the equity world. And you know, I think that corporates would probably turn around and look at you and say, look, here's a small, rapidly growing blockchain company. We want to get involved with them, you know, because we want to invest in this space. And I can see how a lot of hedge funds would want to get into Electroneum. I'm curious to know, have you been approached by people like that and wanting to invest more in Electroneum now?
Yeah, well, we get all the time, and I really do mean all the time. We get people approach us and say, I want to buy X amount off the books, yada, yada. And we say, well, you know, we can't sell you Electroneum. You have to go and buy that. It's in the market. And I think first there's an education process, whether they're just trying it on or I don't know, but we get approached so many times. And we always say, you know, we'll help you, you know, we'll hold your hand and we'll point you in the right direction and we'll give you an education on using an exchange, but we can't sell you Electroneum. And I think that's one of the first hurdles. But then once they get over that, I know that there's been a few prop desks that have, well, I mean, they've told me they've done it. We've seen big spikes. I think that I can believe them in saying that there's some relatively big holders of Electroneum outside of our custodial wallet system. So I think, you know, there are people starting to get into that, and I think we probably will see more of that as we start to grow into that space. One thing, just to cover one more thing on KYC very quickly. There's been a bit of confusion about it. The lowest users, which 95% of our users are less than 150 euros worth of Electroneum traded. You know, it's not huge amounts of holders, and the people in the developing nations who are likely to use this product are not likely to go over 150 euros of traded Electroneum. So actually, their KYC is completely painless. You just type your name and which country you're from, and that's it, it's done. So 95% of our users, the KYC takes you 40 seconds and is no issue at all. Then there's another group that is a bit more of a pain to do, but that group are also the people that have almost certainly got exchange accounts and they've done KYC elsewhere. They've got bank accounts, they've done KYC. Yeah. So, you know, they fall into the group of people that are expected to do KYC anyway. So I don't think it's as onerous as people perhaps think that it is. But, you know, it's been a lot of grief setting it up. Our lawyers' fees have been absolutely astronomical, you know, spending money on contracts and our anti-money laundering system had to be scoped out with them. And it's just, you know, we didn't want to do any of this stuff, but we have to do it to deliver. So that's why we're there.
So when you say that, you know, you're approached by investors, but obviously they can buy in the open market, from an existing investors' perspective, that's very good, because that means that you're not diluting your currency. And you had mentioned at one point that you've raised all the money you need to see yourself through where you want to go. So are we basically saying that to get to potentially 100 million or more users, Electroneum won't have to raise any more capital and you can sell one?
I'm really, really confident of that number too. I'm really sure we will get huge user numbers. We've already seen a huge groundswell. The viral marketing system, you know, the sort of mobile mining and the people telling each other, had this huge spread to start with, but it had a sort of a spread whilst the cryptocurrency market crashed really and became a lot of fun and noise in the press. Crypto is going to take off, right? You just saw Fidelity this week. Maybe you didn't, but Fidelity are huge, and they've just said they're getting into a crypto trading desk for their investment houses. They are, you know, the corporates are getting into crypto, and they're not in it yet, but they're getting into crypto. That means that the big money is still on the sidelines. You're going to see huge money pile into crypto, in my opinion. It's not investment advice, but you're going to see it, in my opinion. And as crypto becomes more and more accepted, you know, then people will become more and more familiar with it. But from our perspective, we'll be out there talking to the mobile operators. If we're just fulfilling one small piece to start with, which is enabling people to top up remotely, that's what an awful lot of people do. They just have one thing. But the big thing that we've got coming next year that I said we're coding is this way of doing off-chain transfers within our custodial network system. And that's going to work really well, insanely well for the remittance system. So you may have seen projects like M-Pesa in Africa. M-Pesa is massive. It does more than $1 billion a day in remittance trade. It's a huge project. And it's e-money, but it's e-money based on airtime. Now, these use more than all the banks in Kenya. So if you look at the money transferred around in all the banks in Kenya, there's more money in Safaricom's M-Pesa system than there is in that. It's a huge market, and that's just a couple of countries in Africa. Now, we've got a global remittance system that we can give people. And remember that once we've got this off-chain system, which is coming, that means that you're transferring value to the next user at zero cost. So you don't have to have the mining fee. You'll only have to have the mining fee when it gets transferred to an exchange or from an exchange. So if we have a centralized, which is a horrible word to use, centralized, but that's what we are. We're a hybrid between centralization and decentralization. And our off-chain solution for that means instantaneous value transfer at zero cost. Now, between users, that will give us a massive access to the remittance market. And you might then say, well, hang on, where's your revenue stream? I've said we're well funded. We'll be using our funding to build us up to that 100 million plus user mark. We want to be the biggest cryptocurrency in the world by user numbers, and I believe we can deliver that. Now, what you got to remember about the remittance market is the big players like the Safaricom have got M-Pesa. An awful lot of those MNOs have got mobile wallets of some description because they've all seen M-Pesa. They all want to get into that action. But the MVNOs, the mobile virtual network operators, the smaller players, hardly any, if any, have an e-money wallet or an electronic wallet of any kind. So they're not able to get any revenue from the remittance market. So by us having zero fees, it means that there is an additional route to market for us, and a huge one that gives our MVNOs another revenue stream, which means they're going to push Electroneum even further, which gives us even greater spread and even greater market penetration. So we've got you know a proper plan. Believe it or not.
No, I do. And I'm asking these questions just because from an investor's perspective, it adds up pretty well. So we'll wrap things up. I have, you know, my friend and co-host Mark Yagala on Global Coin Report wanted to also know, is there a plan to get on Binance in particular?
Yeah, well, I mean, we every single time there's a coin vote, we always apply, but we've never been lucky enough to be included in the coin vote. I mean, you probably know we have a massive community. They're passionate. I love our community, and we're very privileged that they love us. So they vote for things when they're around. If we can get into that coin vote, that would be great. I believe strongly that, and we've already been approached by one other. I won't name them because last time I named an exchange, it bit me in the bottom, but when we've been approached by another top 10 exchange just recently, we're talking to them right now. When we start delivering what we're saying we're delivering, which we are on the cusp of right now, obviously we will start trading more, the liquidity will go up. That is liquidity and market trading that these exchanges make money from. They'll be approaching us to say, oh, I'd quite like to have you on the exchange. At which point we will delightedly get our wallet out and pay some sort of a listing fee to enable them to get the
Yeah, you will have to get your wallet out, I think, for that.
Well, you have to with these guys. I mean, ultimately, they've got a ton of money. They're commercial operations, and they have costs. It's not the easiest. If you're an ERC20 token, you pull a little lever and you list. It's really them taking fees to list an ERC20 token is almost insulting. But with us, we've got our own exchange listing guide. You pretty much, because we've now diverged quite a lot from Monero, where we forked from originally. So actually, we're not the easiest thing in the world to integrate for an exchange. We are different to an ERC20 token. We're different from Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and the other Bitcoin clones. So actually, I understand there's going to be some costs involved. Our tech team's going to have to help out, and there's going to be some costs. So we're going to have to pay for it. No problem.
Well, good luck with that. Good luck with that. And I'll be in touch with you, and hopefully we'll have you on the show in maybe a few months down the line.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I appreciate being invited on. It's very kind of you. And I love what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And for Global Coin Report, on behalf of myself, Mark Yagala, and Richard Ells from Electroneum, we want to thank you. And we'll see you back next week on the show. Thank you all.
Thanks very much, guys. Thanks.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Richard.